Hello, hello. As you can see, I have a blank map of the planet. Yes, yes, yes. And you can guess what I'm about to do. Yes, 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 yes. I'm about to make my own civilization series. So, multiple people begin to discover farming and maybe we should just make a village. And they do. And they make this purple country. And they yeah. And a population boom begins and they expand. Like crazy. Another group of people somewhere over here make their own civilization. Another group of people? Come on. Can anybody be original? These guys are nomadic. Yeah, these guys are nomadic, so you can probably expect them to go over here eventually. Like how Bulgaria was here, but now they're here. Or, I don't know. Like the multiple hordes that came from this area. Like, isn't this called the steppe? Or something? Anyways, this purple team begins to expand at a rapid rate, like really fast. And they just begins to make an empire across multiple, across a really long time. Of course, the other civilizations expand, but not to the extent of the purple. Almost the blue, but they are sparsely populated. And yeah, they're sparsely populated. As the purple would continue to expand, they would discover mountains and stop their northern expansion. As they would mainly, the king. I'm not really good at this commentary stuff. The king would say, let's expand south. So they did. As they would begin to build large cities. And yeah. But that same king would die, and he would have two sons. Let go.
I win.
Okay. And it would start a civil war. And the eldest son would, the youngest son, who wants to be the heir, would make a spearhead towards the capital city. But then the two sons would meet in battle, and the youngest son would be defeated, and the civil war would end. After this, the empire would continue to expand as they would slow down as large mountains would get in the way. but eventually they would find some rivers as they would continue the expansion rapidly. And they would find a new water source. This blue nation would continue to expand, but they would continue to expand, but they would abandon some territories as they move this way. Eventually, over the course, like 50 years, the north and south become culturally different because these mountains make communication hard. And like they just declare independence. Of course, a conquest would be tried to launch into the territory. And will be moderately successful as they would take victory in the north, but they would eventually have to stop because of supply and do I have to say again? Mountains. Eventually, they just get kicked back because supply would be just too difficult and they would just come with thousands of soldiers, destroying their armies, even threatening to move into their territory. With this loss of territory, they would continue their expansion in other places. Just like here. Doing the same thing that will probably lose them more land. But they do become the empire of the Caspian Sea. The empire of the South Caspian Sea, I should say. This new green nation would begin to expand to fit their new growing population in what we would call Mesopotamia, the land between the two rivers. They just start really expanding. Because there's a population boom here, not here. Well, kind of. And here. These civilizations would rapidly grow as they would each individually build their own empire. Except for the blue one. They don't really care. They're just moving from place to place. Being like hunter-gatherers, just staying in one place for longer. So these guys continue to move west as they would continue to move from their original territories. A new civilization would be built as it would be along the Nile River, as it would quickly make its own empire. As it would quickly make its own empire and stuff. As this new nation would begin to have would also begin to grow in large population, like snapping, as they would begin to expand, but eventually they would meet with another nation. Dun, dun, dun. Like that. And they would say, let's have peaceful relations with these guys, as they begin an invasion. They would begin swift offenses into the territory, as they would take the entire northern half. As these guys would not be limited by mountains like these guys were, as they would make like as they would begin to also move through unclaimed territories to strike them, like as they would eventually capture their capital city as the nation would fall. Yeah. Anyways, that's a new empire that just grew really fast. So how's this Anatolian nation doing? Oh, they're doing really well. They just expanded largely. Like, oh, these guys just also met. And these guys also had a large expansion. These guys, they continue to move this way. You know. Eventually, this yellow nation would fully take Anatolia. Well, except for like territories over here, I guess. And they would eventually cross into Europe, building a large city here in the Bosphorus, as they would begin rapid expansion into the uncontested territory, as they would also discover multiple islands along the coast, as they would begin to turn them into large outposts for fishing. But tensions are rising between these three ever since they met. Oh wait, something just happened. A rebellion? Why is there a rebellion? Uh-oh, that's not good. The rebellion will begin to push out as it started due to the monarchy basically just killing a bunch of people for like no reason except just to keep their power, and the witch, like, yeah. Also, these areas just, the king is also just unpopular, as these guys would begin to revolt, taking large pieces of territories as their revolutions would begin to connect, being like a big uh-oh for the monarchy, as they would decide to just like, can we just like let them go? Somebody says, then he gets executed. And then more people joins after hearing that. And the capital city, which is here, begins to be put under threat as the revolutionaries like kind of surround it. Like that. And the king's dead. And boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop. Boop, boop. Well, that's interesting. Daily update. Well. These guys besides to settle down finally, as they found some other people and like a big world that's much bigger than they have discovered. Well, I don't. Well. Anyways, the brown team would begin to like just move along the coast, making multiple major settlements for like fishing, population, like stuff like that, as this would become like one of the most powerful. So this is the brown team most powerful. Purple second, this third, this last, because they just recently settled down. And the brown team says, as I change the color to their occupation color and look at the red team. The brown team would begin. Okay, yeah, that's not what I wanted. The brown team would begin an invasion of the red team as they would take large pieces of the south, as their armies would be exhausted in the revolution, as they did swiftly overthrow the monarchy but did take heavy casualties and like destroyed multiple villages in the process, which is the reason to such success, along with them just being the most powerful nation. As they would continue to push into the nation, they would eventually face the new king of this nation, as they would be defeated. And this would make the brown team like, whoa. How? Not fair. As they would begin to be pushed back, and the brown team would sit down and say, peace treaty? And they say, okay, you can take that, but we want some of this territory back. Like that. Yeah, that. That concludes our first episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm cutting it short because I don't really know what else to do.